Hello, it's me, Ayahuasca from Marijuana Garden.
Energy's Holy Grail, Death of Eugene Malov. Eugene Franklin Malov, June 9, 1947, May 14, 2004, was an American scientist, science writer, editor, and publisher of Infinite Energy magazine, and founder of the non-profit organization New Energy Foundation. He was a proponent of cold fusion and a supporter of its research and related exploratory alternative energy topics, several of which are sometimes characterized as fringe science. He had just published an open letter outlining the results of and reasons for his last 15 years in the field of new energy research. At the time of his death, Dr. Malov was convinced it was only a matter of months before the world would actually see a free energy device. Dr. Eugene Malov died on May 14, 2004, aged 56. He was found at the end of his driveway, beaten to death during an alleged robbery, having received several blunt force injuries to his head and neck. An autopsy ruled his death as murder. His death had a lot of unexpected controversies related to world energy consumption and industries related to it. Since Eugene Malov, one of the world's most outspoken advocates for cold fusion, not long after he broke with the scientific establishment and accused MIT researchers of hiding the true results of their investigations, he died in the driveway of his childhood home. David Kushner, writing in Foreign Policy, traces Malov's life, his involvement in cold fusion, and his 2004 murder. At around 11 p.m. one May night, Demetrius Granger drove up to a white, two-story house in Norwich, Connecticut, that had a for rent sign spiked into the freshly mowed lawn. The Craftsman was among the last residences standing on a leafy road, which was giving way to strip malls and fast food restaurants. An hour before, Granger had inquired about leasing the property. She spoke on the phone with the homeowner's wife, Joanne, who said her husband was still cleaning the house. "Go over," Joanne had encouraged the potential tenant. When Granger stepped out of her van into the cool New England evening, a soft light blanketed the driveway. And there, lying on his back, she found a barefooted man, his beard bushy and black. He wore a white t-shirt and khaki trousers. He was covered in blood. Granger ran back to her van and dialed 911. "He's not moving," she told the operator. "He looks like he's dead." Some 2 miles away, Detective James Curtis was in the parking lot of the Norwich Police Department, getting ready to go home, when a dispatch call announced the homicide at 119 Salem Turnpike. The former officer for the New York Police Department wasn't terribly concerned. "It didn't seem like there was anything outrageous to it," he says. "Those things happen." In short order, he learned 3 pieces of information about the victim. His name was Eugene Malov. He was 56 years old, and though he was the landlord of the house, he lived nearly 3 hours away in Bow, New Hampshire. Judging by the man's condition, beaten, stabbed, and left with 32 lacerations across his face, Curtis was nearly certain that, whatever the motive, this murder was personal. His face, Curtis recalls, looked like it went through a frickin' meat grinder. The nature of Malov's work led to some conspiracy theories regarding the homicide, but police suspected robbery as the motive. In 2005, 2 local men were arrested in connection with the killing. The case proceeded slowly, and the charges against the 2 men were finally dismissed on November 6, 2008. On February 11, 2009, the state of Connecticut announced a $50,000 reward leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the murder. On April 2, 2010, the police made 2 arrests in connection with the murder and said that more arrests were expected. On May 22, 2011, a state prosecutor said that they were charging a 3rd person in connection with the killing. Court testimony indicated that Malov may have been killed by an evicted tenant who was angry about belongings being disposed of during the clear-out. On April 20, 2012, The Norwich Bulletin stated that an ongoing murder trial came to an abrupt halt Friday when Chad Schaefer of Norwich decided to accept an offer of 16 years in prison, pleading guilty to the lesser charge of first-degree manslaughter in the 2004 beating death of Eugene Malov. Malov had just evicted Schaefer's parents, and he was cleaning the evicted house when Schaefer arrived and confronted him. A third individual was arraigned on November 21, 2013. Mozella Brown was convicted of Malov's murder in October 2014 and on January 6, 2015 was sentenced to 58 years in prison. Schaefer's girlfriend, Candace Foster, testified against Brown and Schaefer and pleaded guilty to a charge of hindering prosecution and tampering with evidence. Malov authored Fire from Ice, a book detailing the 1989 report of tabletop cold fusion from Stanley Pons and Martin Fleischmann at the University of Utah. Among other things, the book claims the team did produce greater than unity output energy in an experiment successfully replicated on several occasions, but that the results were suppressed through an organized campaign of ridicule from mainstream physicists, including those studying controlled thermonuclear fusion, trying to protect their research and funding. That was 2004. Over the next 11 years, the question of who killed Malov would lead Curtis down a path he never expected. Malov, the detective discovered, was one of the world's most outspoken advocates for cold fusion. It's science well above my intellect, Curtis says. Yet cold fusion isn't just a complicated form of nuclear energy. It's also highly controversial. Supporters see it as energy's holy grail, the key to saving the Earth from environmental destruction. Critics maintain it might not even be possible, and that any claims that it's already been achieved are total fringe science lunacy. Understanding Malov and what his death meant required delving into a world of knowledge and intrigue where the scientist had once battled and thrived. Cold fusion caught the world's attention in 1989 when two electrochemists announced they had produced a nuclear reaction at room temperature on a tabletop in their lab. Initially hailed as the carbon-free energy source that would solve the world's power problems, cold fusion quickly fell into disrepute when other scientists said they couldn't replicate the experiments. Today, though, cold fusion, rebranded as low-energy nuclear reactions, or LENR, is enjoying a resurgence of scientific interest and funding. With the world more acutely aware of climate change than it was a quarter-century ago, even the U.S. Congress is trying to find out if new breakthroughs mean cold fusion might someday work. These days, cold fusion is known as low-energy nuclear reactions, LENR. It continues to fight for legitimacy and to generate scientific drama. In April, LENR was in the news when Italian engineer Andrea Rossi filed a claim against Industrial Heat, an investing and research company. Rossi, creator of the Energy Catalyzer, or ECAT, a small device that produces excess energy beyond its consumption, claims Industrial Heat agreed to pay him $100 million, $11.5 million of which was due after the first 24-hour trial, to pursue a secret long-term test of the technology. The company never ponied up the cash. Rossi claimed Industrial Heat stole his intellectual property. Industrial Heat said in a news release that it worked for over 3 years to substantiate the results claimed by Mr. Rossi from the ECAT technology, all without success. Other developments in the field haven't been quite so theatrical. In November 2014, Bill Gates visited Italy's leading hub for LENR research, the Italian National Agency for New Technologies, Energy, and Sustainable Economic Development, where he was briefed on the latest cold fusion activities. Per the usual pattern, nothing substantial was announced after the meeting. The year prior, in September 2013, the Department of Energy called for LENR proposals as part of a $10 million funding project under its Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy. To date, not a penny has been spent on a venture. Although these recent developments might seem to elongate the list of LENR's historical failures, Malov very well might have valued them as industry gains. To him, The ultimate success for scientists was to heed the eternal challenge of science, not to follow where the worn path may lead, but to go instead, where there is no path, and leave a trail. His contributions continue. Infinite Energy, which weathered the 2008 financial storm that many other publications did not, still lands in mailboxes in 21 countries around the world. The New Energy Foundation funds research in the field, and it has received more than $1 million in donor funds since its launch. Today, only brush and trees remain on the piece of land that once held Malov's childhood home on Salem Turnpike, which was torn down 4 years after his death. Cars come and go from a nearby McDonald's. Curtis still passes Malov's old place from time to time. To him, the property is more than the site of a solved murder. Curtis wonders what Malov's legacy in global energy might have been if he hadn't died. "We'll never know," he says. Recently, Scott Chubb, Infinite Energy, September-October 2008 published, for the first time, experimental evidence was presented that shows conclusively that excess heat can be reproduced on demand. On May 22, 2008, Professor Yoshiaki Arata at Osaka University presented experiments in which the ratio of output to input heat has exceeded 2,500%.
Thank you.